Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you, dear heart, and welcome everybody. Delighted that you're here. One more time, we get to move forward in this understanding of first century Aramaic forgiveness. And I had an interesting conversation with someone on Facebook today who was asking the question about, well, is there a creator? And it seemed like the commitment was, because the conversation actually went back and forth several times, the commitment was to prove that there was no such entity or what have you in existence. And so the first thought that I wrote back to them, and I just thought I'd share this conversation with you, was, did an incomprehensible quanta of light, cosmic particles, and electron energy crash you into a junkyard and accidentally come out as an operational 747 and life? Ludicrous. The entity behind it all? Can an ant conceive of the loves, the brilliance, the challenges, the works and creations of just one creature, John Doe? Surely you jest. I suspect that, though we are designed by the Creator, comprehend and function within this massive space-time flow of life as the created essence of love itself, we've been so focused on our unconsciously driven, unresolved generational wounds, fears, hates, and loves, quote-unquote loves, our ill-conceived desires, that even the greatest among us have been stunted into perception through a glass darkly. Pea-brains compromised and dulled down beyond comprehension, and we attempt to empty the ocean with a teaspoon. That stunted brain, unknowingly being a card-carrying member of the one world religion of denial and blame, degrades itself as it rails against its favorite target, self, thinking it's railing against life. For its thousandth episode of self-imposed purity, the ignorant once again cries out from its self-deception and self-folly, "They make me so mad." And through that level of hollow understanding and shallowness, opines about the Creator. The actual intelligence behind it all smiles knowingly at the non-human, that is, one who's void of love, and their childish mental constructs, and holds a space of love for our arrival. We step up to the plate, give up our busyness and addiction to bread and circuses, and actually do the work Yeshua prescribed, we will perhaps begin to earn the right to answer the question, Creator? Question mark. But until we liberate ourselves from diabolically brilliant and self-deceptive pea-brains that interpret everything through dark filters of fear and hostility, when we do the work which the departing disciples and the majority of non-humans ever since have said, too hard a saying, we will claim the true mind created for us and finally take our place in the quote-unquote kingdom of heaven, properly translated from the Aramaic as the community of love. Then authentic human life, not just the often disastrous activities of educated, quote-unquote educated human forms without active human life in them, then human life begins. And then ensued several questions about, well, how do you know? How do you know? It's like, what if you're still doing a life based in hostility or fear? You're not even qualified to ask the question because the mind is so dulled. And then this gentleman wanted to share with me an experience that he'd had many years ago, like 20-some years ago. And in that experience, he was instructed, he was lost, going somewhere and very frustrated and upset. And all of a sudden heard, literally, he's driving, heard a voice as though someone were sitting in the front seat of the car with him that basically told him to simply be still, as he raged about the fact that somebody gave him incorrect directions. And then several times, it was kind of cool the way he shared it with me, several times this voice, as he would go into frustration over he didn't have correct directions, again reminded him to simply be still. And all of a sudden he found himself being guided and went directly to the place that he had incorrect directions for. And it was like, well, there's your answer. Be still. And yet the mind of man, that mind that comes from carbon-based memory and its unresolved generational dynamics, has the hubris to think it can make up an accurate story about what's going on, when the real answer lies in being able to collapse that mind, being able to drop that mind into a state of silence so that we're available to a voice much greater than our own. And as we listen to that voice, we have the opportunity to function out of it and to hear its direction. And so in essence, when one steps into using the tool of forgiveness, basically the mind shuts up, shuts down the place where the noise happens, and we get the opportunity to be guided by a mind that's much greater than our own. In the ancient teachings, that mind was called the mind of Christ, and specifically spoken of as being in you. And that mind is available inside of each and every one of us. And if we can stop, if we can collapse the perceptual constructs of the mind based on our own unresolved, unconscious, generational dynamics, then we become available to that still small voice and get to live in a different world. And that's the objective of this amazing tool of forgiveness that we've been talking about for the last 11 years. And we're delighted that you're part of the conversation, Ms. Jeannie. Do you have any thoughts to add to that particular conversation?
No, not really. No, can't think of anything.
Well, then, do we have anybody in the phone queue with a hand up or anything happening in the chat room?
Chat room is still messed up.
You're kidding.
So I've written to them. No, I've written to them several times. It's just really weird. It's like you sign into it and then it kicks you off. And so I don't know if it's doing viewers that way. So if you're out there listening, it shows like that there are viewers as well as speakers on the chat room, but the only person I see is me, and every now and then it'll say you're disconnected from the chat room, and it just goes away. So, but we do have two hands up, and they came up at the exact same time.
Well, then let's say hello to our callers.
All
awesome.
right, the first one is 610. I believe it's Susan. You're on the air.
Oh, hi. Okay, two people.
Well, hey there, young lady. Welcome.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for all you're doing. So this is just a teeny-weeny little testimonial. It won't take
Jeannie,
long.
we can hear you typing. Can you mute, please, sweetie?
Oh, yes. Apologies.
Okay. Excuse me,
the
Susan. Go ahead.
multitasking genius caught at work.
Yeah, she's on it all the time.
I know. She's amazing, Jeannie. You're just amazing. So I had been practicing the gentle art of blessing with wonderful, wonderful results, mainly just feeling as if you don't have to try to do anything. You can still have your lousy, rotten, judging, nasty thoughts, but you just say, oh my God, look at that thought. And you just don't do anything with it. You just say, that is not a thought I want to have. So I've been practicing that, but I had a serious challenge a couple of days ago, and I talked to Dr. Tim on the radio show yesterday. And man, that guy, he just put me right on the track, because
he's that kind of a guy.
He is that kind of a guy. So what happened is, and it's just a little realization, that if I am not feeling good about something, then I am in victim mode and I am blaming. And you talk about that's the world's religion. Well, it is. It's just so pervasive, I'm finding, in the subtlest ways. So, and he said a cool thing. I was complaining about the fact that I think our Michael ought to be doing this, that, and the other. Well, he isn't doing this, that, and the other. And so I'm thinking, well, then maybe he shouldn't be here. And I'm having all these thoughts and not feeling good and feeling angry. And I went through my whole repertory of lousy and blaming. And I told Dr. Tim what was happening, just a few examples. And he said, you could tell that story to 5 people and you'd get a lot of sympathy and you'd get a lot of corroboration. And where would you be? Is that really where you want to go? And he nailed it. Yes, I could, you can set up the story so you look like the good guy and the other one looks like the bad guy, which there isn't any lasting, loving truth in any of that. So I had to get to work, and the worksheets have been very helpful. But, you've probably found this to be true, too, that the worksheet, you can sort of fast track it. I've been using Jeannie's little one on the iPhone and printing them out and looking at them and coming to my goals over and over and over again. And then I was reading The Gentle Art of Blessing today, and all he said that got me is, just do it. Just bless from the deepest part of your heart. And I thought, how could I get in there? And then I thought, that is my intention. That's all of our intentions. All of us really want that. And we get sidetracked and tempted by other things. But I think the deepest part of the heart isn't necessarily a feeling at all. It's just a profound orientation or intention or something. And then you start doing it and you're back on your track again. And as soon as that happens, everything changes.
You just faded out. We just lost your voice, Susan. You must be out walking or moving around, are you?
Right here with the bottom of the phone right up against the phone.
Now you're back.
We haven't done anything.
No, you're kicking in and out. I can't understand your words. Maybe try, Susan, hanging up and dialing back in again. It sounds like the connection's just gotten kind of wonky. We'll hold on till you dial back in. I can tell you're trying to speak, Susan. If you can understand me, I can't understand you. Let's try hanging up and dialing back in, Susan.
And she's also the switchboard, so she'll probably dial right back in.
Okay, give her a second to get back again. It's kind of strange. It was like her signal just faded, like she was out in the mountains or something.
Yeah. Okay, I see her back on there, so I'm going to turn on her microphone.
Okay.
She didn't raise her hand, but Susan, are you
Let's
back?
see if we've got you back. Are you with us, Susan?
I've got her microphone on, but I don't hear anything.
No.
That's weird.
Like she was driving, went to a weak signal area.
She sent me a text and says, I'm back, and she's talking. Well, if you can hear us, Susan, we cannot hear you at all. I've got your microphone on, but we're not hearing you. She said, I'll hang up and listen to the other caller. Okay.
Our apologies.
Yeah. Okay,
Technology,
so
what can you say?
The next caller is 541, and then we do have a third hand up. 541, you're on the air. I believe this is Celinda.
Awesome. Hey, Celinda, how are you, young lady? Well, I wonder if we've got a problem with the sound system.
That's really crazy. Let me try the third caller and see if we have any luck there. I think this one is Joe, 864.
Hello.
You're on the air.
Well, I heard a voice.
Hey, this is me.
Oh, hey,
young man.
You.
Hey, hey, what are you guys doing? What is this? Is this some? What is this? Did you announce me? I'd like to
Technology
special
Challenge
guest star
Day.
announcement. Oh, is it?
Okay, here is our special guest star for today's show, Joe Bryson. Hey, young man, welcome.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. I just wanted to actually the lady that we just lost. I would wholeheartedly endorse what she was saying in terms of how my insecurities will move like lightning, for one thing, and find myself in some kind of headspace that there's a lot of different answers. One is a worksheet, or one is the software on the phone, which is nice, but the issue of taking the time is really the difficult thing for me to say, Rana, you need to make space. You need to slow down and do this.
The old drug busyness.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a big distraction.
It's wonderful. Yeah, it's a very wonderful drug. I mean, I certainly enjoy it, but it screws up the clarity, and that connection gets just like that phone call. You find yourself in the mountains somewhere, some type of terrain that is not what I have asked for or desire. Just so. Anyway.
Well, probably
that,
if there's a challenge with the world, I think it's that we're all getting exactly what we ask for. We're just not in touch with our asker. We think our asker's in our head, and it's not. It's in our heart. It's the energetic dynamics of the energetic patterns that we hold on to that really set up what comes to us. And then, of course, life is delivery, packaging, and will tend to show us everything that we need to deal with.
Amen to that. It is a fascinating experience to see the block, recognize the block, and then do the work to remove the block. And it's again finding some type of blockage or dam, for lack of a better word. There's what's this? Who built this dam here? This water's not flowing properly. Right. I need to open the valve and just return to the flow. That's the most exciting part. And again, I might be getting caught up in the whole. If something has to be exciting, I think peaceful is a better word. Maybe it's just to remain connected, to understand that. Okay, I'm human.
Core of the process.
Do the worksheet. Yeah. Do the forgiveness and move forward. But it's certainly not. What's interesting to me is how much it's probably the biggest thing with you, Michael, is just your day in, day out. It's so you have been singing the same song. Certainly, you may have different lyrics or a melody, but it's just
it's true.
It doesn't. Yeah, I mean, it's what works.
It's just a song that never ends.
Wow.
There's work to be done. It just goes on and on, my friend.
What? Strike up the band. He's rolling.
There you go. There is work to be done for each and every one of us.
I have a wonderful weekend. My daughter's coming in this evening.
Sweet.
33 years old. Just got married September 1st last year, and going to spend the whole weekend. We'll be together, and tomorrow we'll have a luncheon at my place. My dad and my sister, my brother, and their kids, and we're going to do the chicken chase, where I'll let one of the chickens out of the coop, and whoever catches the chicken wins a very valuable prize.
Okay.
It'd be interesting. Yeah. Well, have you ever tried to catch a chicken? It's impossible.
I have never tried to catch a chicken.
There you go. I'm just saying, you got to open up your horizons, Mike. You got to try new things, brother.
We did watch a session of America's Got Talent where there was a guy who was had an awesome voice, and the job was that of a chicken catcher, and he and his fellow workers had talked about how they would catch 70,000 chickens a night.
Oh, wow. We have a town here. Yeah, we have a town called Roebuck, and there's wild chickens there. And if you can catch them, you can keep them. But you can hear them throughout the town. Roosters and chickens, and they have their own little, I guess, culture, society.
Only in North Carolina, right?
South Carolina. Yeah, please.
South Carolina. Oh, it's South
Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to insult South Carolina.
Home of the free and the brave. That's right.
There you go.
That's right.
Cool.
Yeah. Amen.
Awesome.
That's all I had.
All right, my friend.
I'm busy.
What's the most important piece of work you've broken through with recently?
I would share that the 2x2, the idea of 2x2 and Noah's Ark, the notion and the lesson of you want to Joe, if you want to leap and bound, then an intimate relationship or a intimate friendship, however you want to, that really, it's just amazing how opening to vulnerability and the willingness to share and try to explain. That's the other thing I find fascinating, is trying to explain specifically, if we're just going to say something, the worksheet, trying to explain that worksheet to somebody who doesn't or hasn't seen it, doesn't know anything about it, is really, really helpful for me. Not so much them. I mean, if it resonates with them, that's theirs. But for me to teach, to share that, whatever it may be, the insecurity that I may feel about something, or, where am I on this relationship in terms of the timeline or the busyness? I don't know. I don't know how to explain it sometimes, but just 2x2. I've had so many people say to me, "Oh, you need to spend some time alone." And I don't, you know what? Yeah, okay. But to me, if I want to, that works too. But it just doesn't work as effectively as the willingness to be open and vulnerable with someone else. So
definitely being in relationship opens the spaces for all kinds of things to surface, and create the motivation and the willingness too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that the definition of what is surfacing is just be open to whatever that may be, and because to understand what that is a bit of a challenge, because it could be your father's problem or some issue, or it's like I can never forget years ago you said confusion's good. Be confused, and sit with it. So that's
very important part of the healing
offering.
process for sure. All right, my friend.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Outstanding, Jeannie. Try to behave and do your best with Michael. Thank you. You there? She's ignoring
All right.
me.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
She keeps me on track.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks. All right, I'm going to try Celinda's phone, her microphone again, and then we do have another hand up.
Okay.
Susan actually sent me a text and said that the last time when she hung up and tried to dial back in, it wouldn't even let her back in. So there are definitely issues going on with Blog Talk. But let's try Celinda's again. Yeah.
Okay.
Celinda, can you hear us this time?
Yes, I can, and I could hear
Awesome.
you last time, but I was mute challenged.
Okay.
Well,
I put
it
you
gave
on mute
Susan an opportunity when we couldn't get her through and we couldn't get you through, but then Joe came through. She said, that just must not want women to talk today.
Oh, is that what, all of our issues, right? All of our issues. How funny. I wanted to, this is for you and Joe, because you wanted to know how to catch a chicken. And I'm sure 17,000 in one night with him and his cohorts must be pretty spectacular. But this is a very short story. I'll say it as shortly as I can. That when I was on Kauai, I decided, and I was homesteading on an acre and a half, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go down to the egg farm and just buy the chickens they're culling. So I bought a whole 30 of leghorns, right? And I brought them home. And, of course, they'd been in cages their whole life. So for about 3 or 4 days, they all stood in a circle in my pasture and wouldn't move. Just a circle, everyone facing outward. And then the next day I looked out, and they were totally gone, totally gone. So I realized soon I couldn't figure out, didn't know anything about chickens and having to have a place for them to roost and stuff like that. And so I went looking for eggs, and I could never find any eggs. And then eventually I found about 30 or 40. So what happened was I realized this project is not working at all. And there happened to be a Filipino family next door, and I knew they could use those chickens. And I said, hey, if you could catch the chickens, because I haven't been successful at all, Henry, the father, I said, then you can have them. And because I'd paid $1 a piece for them. So he said, okay, I'll send my boys over right now. Well, his boys were anything from about 4 years old to about 8. And these boys come over, and I said, you're kidding, boys are going to catch these chickens. And each one of them had a gunny sack. And so one of the boys started chasing the chickens. And the other boys stood very quietly with their gunny sacks. And when a chicken would run by them, they would reach out and grab it and throw it in the sack. And they had those chickens, 30 chickens, cleaned up in about 10 minutes. So I thought I'd share that with you. So they got their chickens, and I got my pasture back, and it all worked out. But that's my story. I also want to thank Susan for all she shared with you and with you and Jeannie and with Dr. Tim, because as I had mentioned to you before, I feel like Susan, Magda, Ann, and I are kind of leapfrogging on each other, and not that the other callers in. It's just that the four of us seem to be kind of a four musketeers here at the moment. And so I really appreciate her saying that she kind of had a breakthrough with the worksheet when she started using the 5-step mental form. because I've been having a real problem with the worksheets because I seem to jump myself into my figure it out brain, and I seem to get very confused with my figure ground difficulty I have. And so I tried it last night. It works wonderfully. I add thought, emotion, and behavior to the goal. As I add them in separate little places for myself. But I just wanted to tell you how well that works. And I certainly have enjoyed the Way of Mastery with Dr. Tim and everybody who is listening. And I just want to share with you that also for Joe and the intimate relationships, yeah, really, that is my crucible. That is the place where I do my most significant work.
It's definitely the place where it happens.
Yeah. And so just that kind of crucible that we put ourselves in relationship, and how we always have a choice. We have a choice for love, from like where you were saying, and I really appreciate, Michael, that you said choice comes from the heart, not the head. And the head is just basically figuring it out, but it's the heart that reaches out and chooses to live from the Christ mind. It's the heart that chooses out to embrace and accept and allow each other and ourselves. And I love that thought that, about heart math being, have the heart energy vibrations being, multi-times more, having more power than the head does. And I also love the chakra system, where the heart becomes the middle centering chakra between the head and the body, or the unconscious and the conscious. And all of these things are just kind of flowing together for me. So as it says in the Way of Mastery, I am learning to dance to the jig with my Satan within and stop throwing it out there. And pretty soon I'll be laughing and hooting and hollering and say, I really don't think I want to do this jig anymore. And so
get finished with the drama and trauma.
I know it, and it'll come up in a heartbeat. I can go from being at peace, and I will check in with my thoughts, Michael and Jeannie, and what'll show up is like these incredibly bizarre, ugly dramas and traumas, and to catch them right when they come in the door and saying, oh, wrong door.
Like catching chickens.
Like catching chickens. We put them in our gunny sacks. I love it. Perfect. So that's what I have to share. And I am just so grateful for all of Susan's sharing, all of Magda's sharing, all of Anne's sharing, my sharing, and yours, Jeannie's and Tim's, and every other caller. And thank you so much.
All right, young lady. Appreciate you.
Blessings. Okay.
All right. Lots of love. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we have another hand up, and it is area code 703. You're on the air. Who do we have?
Hi, you're speaking to Vicki. How are you guys doing?
We're rocking. How about you, Vicki?
Hello. It's Friday, so doing good.
Awesome.
My question is, I am presently looking for new employment. Do you see any new opportunities coming my way soon?
Well, Vicki, we used to be part of a different system on Blog Talk, where the woman who ran the show did kind of psychic readings, but that's not a direction that we go in these days. This is our work here now is more focused on the first century Aramaic idea of forgiveness, of getting ourselves out of the way and waking up to the truth of who we are, so we don't kind of get into that psychic thing, but we'll hold the space for opportunities for you for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
All right, young lady. All right, blessings. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay, Miss Susan got back on, and she said she can hear us, so let's try her one more time. Hello, Susan.
Hi. Can you hear anything?
Hey, loud and clear. Crystal clear.
Oh, good. Good.
You're back.
Good. Well, I had finished what I was going to say, although you probably didn't hear it all, and I don't know where it all got fouled up and everything. But my takeaway is just do it. And you'll find, I should speak for myself, I find that I step right into peace and joy as soon as my intention is cleaned up. And there's a nasty delight in being right or getting some kind of revenge, whatever that might be. I am a real sucker for that, but it leaves me feeling badly. And this is a much better way to go. So I just want to stay on this side of the tracks. And
I'll stand there with you.
Okay, and that leads me to a question, because, Michael, you are a very powerful Facebook spokesperson about the messes we are in this country. And there's a lot of intensity behind what you say, and your reporting is amazing. Extensive, critiques or evaluations or whatever it is. I trust that you are able to do this without going to the wrong side of the tracks. I wouldn't be able to say, one reason I don't comment on Facebook is because I'm not cleaned up enough to be able to be a clear passer on of information. And I just wanted to ask you, it's sort of like the movies you watch. You watch movies with really tough, villainous people in them because you want the opportunity to grow. I stay away from those things because I don't want all those nice opportunities. Too many already in my life. So I just wanted to ask you how you manage, what ego state, or how are you when you're writing your stuff for Facebook?
Well, one of the things, I make a lot of, I don't bring it into the show, the political aspect of what's going on in the world, but I do post a lot, as you've noticed and acknowledged, about that appears to be about politics, but for me, it's not about politics. It's about the fact that I have 5 granddaughters, and I want to see a world that's safe for them to grow in. And there are multiple issues that, in order for your grandchildren and my grandchildren to grow to adulthood and have grandchildren of their own, are going to need to be addressed in order for us to still be around on the planet. Right. So for me, it's not a political commentary at all. It's simply keeping in front of people the awareness. The last few years politically has really, I think, in a lot of minds, normalized and given permission for all kinds of rage and grievance politics.
Right.
And I think that if we allow ourselves, and that's why my reminders in so many arenas are, this isn't normal. And we need to wake up and take action, and the action we need to take is action based in love, and do the work around it. Yeah. So if there's an issue that goes on that arouses some form of hostility or fear for me, before I start doing the analysis of, before I start doing research on it to find the facts, I'll do the work so that I can approach whatever research I'm doing from a connected space of love, to be able to see through the brainwash, the control dynamics, the hypnotic dynamics that the world tends to impose on people. So for me, it's
Right.
a pretty neutral state. I do, on occasion, still come up with a layer and a level of frustration about why are we still doing this? But that's just my
Yeah.
next piece of work to do. But I
Yeah.
want to keep the conversation going about
Mm-hmm.
it's wake-up time, folks. It's wake-up time, and we need to
Yeah.
really address these things rather than normalize them.
I agree totally. So my question is it fair to say that if you post something from your neutral, loving, wide-visioned space and you get some angry feedback, does that mean you are missing the mark as a communicator? Or, see, for me, if I stir up hostility in other people, I have failed to present the issues in a loving way. I have failed somewhere along the line of communicating lovingly. I'm not sure that's true. I'm just wondering, and I pull back from doing it partly because of that.
Well, there is, and you've heard me talk about it before, the test that the Course in Miracles offers for determining where you are in your work, and that is, can you focus on, speak about an issue, and maintain perfect peace? Yeah. And pretty much when I post, I'm in a state of a pretty peaceful state. There is that second level of test, which I have not exactly mastered yet, where it says, when someone else thinks of you, do they share your perfect peace? Mm-hmm. And I acknowledge that sometimes, because I'm pretty in people's faces about the dynamics going on in the world, that I don't pass that test, and I continuously use it. I interact, and, I'm probably, over the last few years, I've maybe disconnected, blocked 4 or 5 people who have responded, but responded with illogical, irrational, I'm just going to fight about this and there's no intelligent conversation. It's like, well, I'm delighted to stay connected if we're going to have an intelligent conversation, but if all you want to do is post, silliness and present it as fact, then I don't have an interest in talking with you. But other than 4 or 5 people in the last 3 or 4 years, that's been the extent of, blocking anyone, because it's just nonsensical conversation.
Right.
But I think these things need to be spoken about, and they're kept hidden to a great degree. They're they're normalized, and we've got to stop normalizing, the oceans of plastic that are rolling around in the ocean.
Yeah.
We've got to stop pretending that stuff's normal for the survival of our children and their children.
I read an interesting article about what the presidency of Donald Trump did, and I think it was David Brooks, I like him a lot. He said, we are brought to have more permission to be angry with one another, or impolite, or destructive, or whatever it is. But the fact that we are doing that means that has been revealed. Trump didn't do that. He just took a cover off of something that was already infected. And I think he's probably right.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that if we recognize that he and many others have shown us our own darkest underbelly, and will do the work that's uncovered by that to return to love, then he's one of the greatest gifts the world has ever seen. I know he's given me many opportunities to learn forgiveness.
Right. Me too. And I do agree with you that, boy, well, if it was there, let's have a look at it. But on the other hand...
And that's...
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, that's the space from which we watch movies or TV series. that
right.
are not always oriented toward kindness. You know, there are several historical series that we've watched, and just the mass insanity, insensitivity, and abuse that's gone on the planet is just something that we all need to face. We all need to, you know, that saying, I forget who said it, that those who refuse to deal with history are bound to repeat it. And so to be able to bring those things up and bring them up in the context of real life today in the real world gives us an opportunity to move through and heal those things.
And we have to do our work just so intensely and constantly in order to really be in the space, holding a loving space, not just putting on a mask. And usually we can smell the difference between, you know, somebody who's fawning or someone who is genuinely from a place of deeply balanced, centered, loving space is operating. And I think a danger for me is to sort of arrive at my enlightenment before I've gotten there, and to, like Fenelon, keep track of the dark stuff, keep a good hard eye on it, and don't try to gloss it over and pretend it isn't there, but bring it all to consciousness and present it, and somehow hope the good guys win.
And watch what you do with your breath as you do it.
Yep.
You know, there was time back, I'm not even sure now, several months ago, where you and I had a conversation, and we ended up in kind of a meditation of really paying attention to where the tightness was in our structures. And that day, that conversation you and I had has been a flagship for me. It was kind of a new space of comprehending that, and personally being able to pay attention to my own physiology, and to recognize that if I'm looking at something that appears to be in the world, but my breath is stopping, I'm locking something up in me, then first and foremost, I have work to do in that arena. And that conversation we had has been sort of a beacon for me that keeps reminding me to look at, where is my own breath? Where is my own physiology?
That's great. That's good for all of us to hear that. I don't remember what we were talking about, but I remember at the time you said, oh, I'm resonating. There's work for me to do too, or something like that.
Yeah. And so just paying attention where attention is physically. You know, we can kid ourselves, oh, there's nothing going on here for me. But if I'm not, if I'm locking down my breath, or, you know, there's a big knot in my knee or my, you know, calf muscle or what have you, I better start paying attention, because that's energy moving in my physiology. That's my work to do.
Yeah.
So joining you and doing that work.
The Facebook thing, I don't suppose there's ever any way that a person can, I mean, Jesus inspired animosity when he did certain things. I'm sure when he healed the woman, well, not healed her, but kept her from being stoned to death, the Pharisees probably were pretty mad at him and wanted to find another way to get him. So I don't know if you put stuff out there, even from your loving space, whether you're going to always open-minded, loving, receiving soul on the other end. And you say in some cases you had to block people. In other cases, maybe there's been a trigger that's done some good. You just can't know, can you? You're doing the best you can, and you're doing all you can, and that's all you need to be. I'm talking to myself. All you need to be
hold the space and follow guidance.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Michael, I do have this itch, this rash. It's getting better, but it's been a very good teacher. So I've
Gotten
been
your
blessing
attention?
the itch. Yeah, it's got my attention. And I am a very fidgety, itchy person. And it's sort of come to the surface now. And I am doing your cleanse, by the way. I'm doing the gentle version, not taking 5 pills and, whatever it is after the 4th day
Right.
or whatever. Doing it, and it's going fine. I haven't noticed any 20-foot-long snakes coming out from my nether regions, but I keep looking. But anyway, being aware of being an itchy person has been extremely helpful, because when I'm itchy, I'm not breathing. So
That's an interesting dynamic to notice.
Yeah. I'm in a hurry. Got to get somewhere. Got to do something. Got to escape something. Anything but the present.
So what would it take to bring yourself into the present as the presence of love, with this motivation to hurry? What would that look like? Can you imagine yourself doing that?
I don't even know how to compute that question, Michael. Can you reword?
Well, I guess the mechanism, if you're finding yourself in this, race to keep ahead of whatever's chasing you and avoid it, would be to cancel the goal. And I don't know what the goal would be. Maybe it would be the goal to be safe, or the goal to be one step ahead, to cancel that and just stop and breathe and be right here, right in this moment.
Great.
And what would that feel like?
Yeah. Okay. The images are coming. That's good. Okay. I am running as fast as I can away from a riding crop wielding mother. And I could move fast. Boy, I could move. My sister and I would fly upstairs, dive into bed, roll up in our blankets in a ball. So I guess I'll have to spend some time with that one. The idea of stopping on the stairs, turning and facing my mother. And I think she would have loved it if we had. I think she would.
You think she would have?
We were loved it if we had stopped and turned and looked at her.
That might be an interesting meditation to do.
Yeah.
And communicate with her about what's going on with her, that she's that intense toward you as a child.
I think she would have felt a lot less lonely if we had looked at her and talked to her. Yeah, okay, I'll do that. That's a wonderful meditation. Thanks.
Of course, it's hard to, as a child especially, to face someone who's a giant compared to you, with a riding crop in their hand ready to inflict pain.
Well, at the time, I could never have done it, but now I can do it. I really think I can.
Yeah. It might open some very interesting dialogue. Breathing with you.
I'm looking at her face, actually, in my mind's eye. She was so lonely. Man, oh man, she was desperate. We didn't have any tools. She didn't and we didn't.
So the violence was her only way to cope.
Yeah.
Well, perhaps you remember the session that Magda did in the codependence intensive with her, I believe it was her great-grandfather.
I remember it.
Perhaps creating that kind of interaction with Mom, you may be able to bring her some solace, and in so doing, quiet that part of your own mind that's still trying to escape that intense reaction.
I would love to do that. Thanks.
Well, we hold the space for Mom to be able to pour her heart out, to empty her mind.
I think she wanted to when I was a teenager. She saw me in terrible distress at one point and came and was sitting by the bed wanting me to talk with her and offering her commiseration and understanding. And I have told you this, I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't let her in.
You blew it off.
But I'm so sorry I didn't miss the opportunity. It wasn't time yet. That's it.
I hear you. I had, my challenge as a kid was my father, and I can remember being a teenager and the space he approached me from that different space, and I kind of had the same response you're talking about. It's like, too late, I'm gone, and I lament that as well.
Say the last thing again, Michael. You what?
I lament having done that with my father.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of having the awareness to be able to just be there with him.
Yeah.
I would have been, let's see, probably 17.
That's just the age.
I was just like, I'm gone. I'm not interested. You weren't there. You've never come forward with that, and I've got other fish to fry. I'm too busy.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never thought of that before. Too busy. Yeah, that drug. So I'll breathe with you and join with you, and in each of us, perhaps doing another layer and another level of work with our with the abusive parent energy.
Great. Thanks, Michael. Very helpful.
All right, dear heart. Well, we're down. The show's going to cut us off any second, so we'll just say thank you, thank you, thank you.